everyone, it's Anton here, back again with a new episode on photo retouch process. And I kind of have a feeling that I turn into a video blogger, which would be my biggest nightmare. But nevertheless, I wanted to record this video to talk about this specific image that I captured in Miami Beach, Florida a few months ago. And how can we get from a series of photographs like that, those are all source files, all the raw files, how can we get from images like this a complete photograph of a building without any perspective distortion? So let's start from the very beginning and look at the source file that we're going to be using. As I was walking down the street on Miami Beach, I saw this post truck, which was really cool. And at that stage, I only had my 50mm lens on my Leica M camera. So I started capturing the truck, and then I realized how beautiful of a building is behind it with this floral butterfly, dragonfly, palm trees, quite random though, texture. So I changed my lens to wide angle lens, which is 28mm, which is great for architectural photography. And I captured this picture with the truck in it, and then the next picture, the truck was already gone. So I thought, all right, I can just continue taking photos of a building, and then in the future, when I get back home, I can composite an image with the building, and I can always put a truck in it just because I already had captured on the same lens with all the same settings. Talking about settings, you can see it was captured with ISO 200, which is really good, 28mm lens, f-stop 8.0, sorry, so everything is in focus and everything is super sharp. And shutter speed is quite high, just because it was middle of the day and the sun was shining and you can see all the harsh shadows everywhere in the street and from a truck. And when I take pictures of a building, I always try a few different things. I need to have multiple shots on my camera. So the first thing that I always try is obviously fit entire building in a frame. What you can see here is that I was really pointing attention to a truck, but all the way at the top, sorry, I'm missing just a tiny bit of a building. Technically, I can redraw it in Photoshop. It's not a big deal, but it's just easier to capture the whole thing if you can. So I'm keep trying capturing the entire building in one frame, which still works really well. But the thing is that the moment I'm going to start correcting perspective, you can imagine that this entire triangular part of the image will be gone because the corner is going to get moved all the way here, and the building is going to sit pretty tight in a frame. There's not going to be enough free space around it, so it's not going to look so good. I always try to capture buildings both horizontally and vertically in multiple shots. So what you can see here, 2 shots when I move horizontally. So I take a picture of the left part of a building and then the right part of the building. And then the next thing I always do, I capture it vertically. So I have a lower part of the building and I have upper part of the building. The reason why I do that is that software sometimes is unpredictable. And sometimes it can merge image like this without any artifacts and be a great result. And sometimes it will do a better job with a picture like this. So just in case, I always capture it both ways. Something like this first and something like that would be second. Now, after looking at all my source files that I have from this building, I get to choose what I want to use. So I decide to go with a vertical shot, and I'm going to use this shot with the truck in the middle of it as my lower part of the building, and I'm going to use this shot as my upper part of the building. Now, there are multiple ways of stitching images together, and at least for me, there are 3. And the first one that I always try first is just to use built-in Lightroom tool. So what you have to do is just select 2 images together, and then you can right-click, click Photo Merge, and click Panorama. Now, Lightroom doesn't give you enough freedom to modify image. Sometimes it works, sometimes the result is great, which in this case it is, and sometimes it's not really. So you want to have a little bit more control. In this case, the second one is Photoshop. So you would have to just select your file again, click Edit In, and you would click Merge to Panorama in Photoshop. Now, Photoshop gives you a little bit more control, and surprisingly, even if you use same settings, it can give you a very different result to the one that you can get in Lightroom. The third option that you can use is use very specific software for putting panoramic images together. The thing is that Lightroom and Photoshop, they're not designed just to put panoramic images together. It's just a feature that is there. Sometimes it works great, sometimes it doesn't. If you have more complex panoramic images that consist of 6 shots or maybe sometimes 8 shots, or if Lightroom doesn't do a good job and Photoshop fails again, you can use very specific software designed just for panoramic images. And one of them, it's my favorite tool, it's called PT-GUI, I guess, that's how you pronounce it. This software is amazing, and we're not going to look at it today, but just so you have your options in the table, just go ahead, maybe try a trial version. It does an amazing job stitching panoramic images together. So let's get back to Miami in this case. I selected 2 images, and there's a Boa Raw, DNG, coming from Leica. I'm going to right-click, click Photo Merge, and select Panorama. So what Lightroom does, it gives me 3 options here. The first one I rarely use, spherical, cylindrical, because all the lines become curvy, and it will take some time to fix it, so I don't really want to do this. So I always go with the third option, perspective. You know, the image looks fine. It looks like it does the job of stitching, so I'm going to click Merge. It's going to do some calculations here and spit out a merged image. The one great thing with Lightroom is that now the image is here. Let's mark it as 5 stars and start working with it. The one amazing thing with Lightroom, which I'm not sure 100%, but according to a file name, it's still a raw file. So it doesn't spit out a TIFF or a JPEG or any other compressed or uncompressed raster file. It still remains a raw file that I can change my temperature and I can do all the adjustments straight on the panoramic images, which is really, really cool. So now we have this image, which will correct the perspective, which will retouch, and go through the whole process right now. A couple of quick tips. Another one that I always use when I retouch photos, I use presets coming from VSCO or Visco. I don't really know how you want to pronounce it, but those are amazing. And if you should really, really try one, and you can do it so by going to shop.vsco.co. There are plenty of them, but to be honest, I only use this pack number 4, which is slide films. And in slide films, I only use 1 or 2 presets max. I always use Fuji Velvet 50, it's my favorite one. Sometimes I use Fuji Bravia 400, specifically for portrait. It has a really nice skin color tone. And then rarely I would use SP or 100. Those are just, you know, you can try it for yourself. You'll probably find your favorite one, but this is by far my favorite one. Try it. I don't think it's that expensive, and I think VSCO has done a fantastic job at mimicking old films for Lightroom. So try to download it and try it out. I'm not going to talk about how to import it into Lightroom. You can watch separate tutorials about that. But the moment I have them, they would appear in my presets panel. And this is my favorite preset, Velvet 50. And then sometimes if I get to see a little preview here, if it's too dark, I'm going to try minus and then double minus, which is basically increasing and decreasing intensity of a filter as I understand it. All right, so let's click Fuji Velvet 50. The thing with presets is that basically it's just a quick way of color correcting your image with a set of parameters. Most of them I still control later because you can see the image got a little bit too dark and I want to correct it. But the only thing that is really important what VSCO does is the camera calibration. The one thing I forgot to notice is that when you download them, I guess it's important to download them for your specific camera because each camera captures images differently. So for example, Canon would add a little bit more blue, or Nikon would be a little bit more yellow, for example. And I have the film pack 4 for Canon, since I still shoot a lot of images from Canon, and I have another one for Leica here. So I click on, let's just reset for a second here, You can actually choose them. SP is really bright. It's basically increases your saturation a lot. So I don't really use it that often. So my favorite one, as I mentioned, is 50. So I can turn 50. So it does a lot of a quick job for me that I don't have to go in and configure every single little thing. I still have to do the main parameters, but it kind of fixes my calibration, it adds sharpness, and a bunch of other things. So now let's go and start color correcting this image a little bit. So you can see that the image ended up a little bit too dark, so I'll definitely want to increase brightness. So this is the first thing that I always do, is just change exposure. The next thing is temperature and tint, the two most important thing I think in color correction. Temperature, I want to go a little bit towards blue. I don't want to keep it red. I know this is probably a little bit more natural and warm, but I like to keep my images almost black and white. So everything that's white, I want to get more towards blue tones in here. And then at the same time, I want to change tint. Obviously, if I go here, my image turns green. If I go here, my image turns red. So I want to keep it in between and not go too much in a green zone. All right, so this is good in terms of temperature. Now, the next thing I always do is all these guys here. So shadows, I want to get image more flat. So I'm going to get rid of shadows as much as I can without making image too artificial. And then highlights is important too, because as I'm making everything brighter, just because image got a little bit too dark, everywhere where it's white gets washed out, and I lose a lot of details here. So I'm going to turn whites down. I want to make sure that whites are visible. So for example, you can see here, information on white gets more visible, and here I lose it a lot. It gets overexposed. So I definitely want to go somewhere, all right, somewhere here. Same with whites here and shadows here. We can control them a little bit more. Another thing that I did here, I guess, I would get rid of all the dust in my matrix, which I already cleaned while I was in Barcelona. After I took all the photos with the plane from a previous video, I saw how bad my matrix looked like, and I had to spend 100 euros cleaning my matrix on a Leica. I can get rid of this little reflection. It looks like there is a pool there, which is amazing. And there is a little thing that a landlord forgot to fix. Let's get rid of this guy again. Got some matrix dirt. This is some rust here. I mean, we're pretty good. I'm not going to go into details, but I would always go in and kind of clean up all the dirty parts of a photograph with the, I don't know how you call this, like a clone stamp tool inside Lightroom. All right, I think we're fine. I'm not going to go, usually I go into every single little thing and I would clean it up. Okay, so we kind of have this, and next thing that I always do is I use clarity or dehaze. I was talking in a previous video that clarity is great when your image is more or less black and white, and dehaze is great when you have color. So basically dehaze increases contrast between colors in your photograph. But the thing is that it's easy to go too much, and where image starts to look very dirty. So I'm going to try just a little bit, maybe +10. It's going to be great. The next thing that I always do is shadows here. So basically everything that's black, you get to see it here in the harsh shadows on the plant here, in the car, here behind the wheels. So for example, if I start increasing this black, you can see I keep getting those details back, which is really good. All right, now my favorite tool is where I control every single color. With blue, I really want to increase blue here. I really want to make it darker. So I'm going to go with luminance and push it towards blacks. So for example, you can go into completely black or completely white, and I always do that. I always use this tool just to get rid of the sky or make it more prominent. Now, the saturation of the sky is a little bit too crazy, so I definitely want to tone it down a little bit with saturation. And the one great thing with this is that you can control the hue of blue. So I can go into more neon colors like that, which looks amazing, or I can go more towards red and purple colors like that. So I'm going to stay somewhere around here, which I think looks good. Split toning is fine. Sharpening is fine. Lens correction, I don't think it's going to do a lot of job here. It's kind of doing something, but not so much. Now, the next thing that I want to do is change or control my perspective. I want to fix it to make sure that all the lines are straight. And there are also a couple of ways to do it. First, I always try to do it inside Lightroom. And if it works in Lightroom, great, I keep it there, I continue editing. If it's hard to fix it in Lightroom, I would try to do it in Photoshop, or again, using third-party software, which in this case would be the XO. The XO ViewPoint 3 is a software that allows you to change or to basically control everything align and make them horizontal or vertical, make them straight very, very easily. So let's try to do it in Lightroom first. So you can see here, what I can see here, I not only have to fix vertical lines like this ones, you can see that my horizontal lines are also skewing a little bit more. So there are a couple of things that you can do here. Of course, is control the vertical position of the image, which is maybe like this. But you can see this line is not straight, so you can do it with horizontal motion. But remember, it also affects your bottom one. And then you can also rotate image a little bit. So you can see that my line in the middle is not so straight. All right, I think I overdid it here on the left part. Let's try and put it back. All right, I think it's okay. It's not maybe super straight. All right, the left part is a little bit too much. And the right part is, I can't really get this corner here, which is a shame, because you can see here, unfortunately I can't keep the grid and show my mouse cursor, but take a look at this corner and take a look at this corner. They're not on the same line. So I might have to use a separate software just to correct the perspective. I wasn't being able to get this image straight, so I'm gonna undo until I get to a previous setup that I had, something like that. And I'm going to right click here, and since I want to still retouch and complete this photograph in Photoshop, I'm going to first export it into Photoshop, click open anyway, and only then apply the XO ViewPoint 3 to correct my perspective. Now, as I mentioned, you can do it right in Lightroom. If I click here, I think I can click edit in the XO ViewPoint 3, and it will open up DxO. I'll do my job there, and after I hit save, my picture will get back to Lightroom, and then I will have to bring it back to Photoshop and do my job, so it's just easier to get it straight to Photoshop and then continue my job from here. Alright, so we have our photograph here with all the Lightroom adjustments. I want to duplicate my layer, and I'm going to click Filter, DxO Labs, DxO ViewPoint 3. All right, something is happening here. Some jumping. I installed the new version. That's why I don't have a activation, but I still have a demo. So I'm going to click Try Demo. So the moment we have our picture here, we can easily fix perspective. The main feature for me personally is this last one, the fourth one, where I get to see 4 individual lines. Because the picture is not straight. I can't really fix it with 2 lines because you can see that this line at the top is not so straight and the one at the bottom is the same. Those are the 2 horizontal lines. This is a box, which actually might work in this case, but usually it's just I use this one. But I think specifically since this building looks like a box, I can just use this feature. All right, so let's put this marker here. And then we put this one here. All right, the line is kind of good. Put another one here. And then the 4th one is going to be, okay, there's a little bump here, so I'm going to be careful not to consider it. So I think it's somewhere here. I missed, okay. All right, that looks good. So let's hit apply. Okay, awesome. Building is now straight. I'm going to hit save, and it's going to save this image. It's going to apply this filter to this extra layer that I created in Photoshop, so I get to see the result here. Now, I don't need this one. Let me just finally crop the image and get rid of those other things. I can move it here. Okay. So while I was cropping it, I really wanted to make sure that my car, or the little post truck, is in the middle. So it's not really in the middle, because I'm keep an eye on these two lines and where the garage door is, just so it looks quite even. Alright, maybe like this, but I have to decrease it on this size. Alright, that would be really good. Okay, that would be a good crop, but I get this little thing that I have to fix, so I'm just gonna get actually more than that. There's a whole other, so let me crop. It's just not worth to redraw 5 pixels. It's just easier to crop it. I still have an empty corner that I gotta fix, but which is whatever. I'm gonna do something like, oh, it's not transparent. It's just white. Okay, never mind. I'm gonna take a brush and just kind of do a quick hack here to put it together. I think I erased a little bit too much there. All right, we're good. Okay, we have this image. As I mentioned in my previous video, I like to sharpen image, and I always do that actually in the very beginning before I start retouching. So I go to high pass, I take a look at having a pattern on the building is amazing because it actually gives me exactly what I need. I'm going to sharpen only all the details, all the contrast details. So I'm going to hit OK and click overlay, so gray is not visible anymore. You can see the image is huge. So if I turn it on and off again, I get to see it only sharpens all the details, but it doesn't affect my white color or texture that I have on white or texture that I have on my turquoise curtains here. So it's great. The next thing that I want to do is still do color balance, just in case there is anything better. And there is always better color balance. You know, it's like you adjust color balance, you are happy with it, it's amazing, and then next day you look at it, it's like, oh shit, it's still red. So you really have to kind of try it a few times, I think. So I still feel that my image was too red. So I want to, all right, I'm adjusting midtones. Let's go to shadows and apply some of the blue on the black. And then highlights. All right, highlights I don't want to touch because it's kind of gonna ruin me the whole picture. So now that I look before and after, it's like it's so yellow and red, and oh my god, it's so much better. And I don't understand how I didn't see it here. So we're good. Let's keep moving. My favorite tool, selective color. Let's go to blacks first. I want to adjust this. I want to get rid of the black. I keep looking at the wheels here just so they're not lost completely. I'm going to add a little bit blue here. I don't want to add any red or any green. No red and green. So let's go to neutral. We can make it a little bit brighter here. And we can make it more yellow, which is not really good. And we can make it more blue, going into minus, which is really good. Okay, whites is very important just because I can make my building glow by making whites more white. So you can see here, it's almost adding levels or contrast, but only on white, which is amazing. And I can make it more gray, which doesn't really look good. So I'm gonna try to make my building pop a little bit more. Now, the next color that I wanna touch is blue or different shades of blue, just because it occupies the most of my picture. So I want to go to blues and I want to make it darker just because I want to increase the contrast between white building and darker sky. If my sky would be very bright, I would lose this very clear, distinct line between building and the sky. So, and at the same time, I don't want to saturate. I want to desaturate it a little bit more. I don't want to have it. I want to have it something like this, and then more like this, more red or more blue. Yeah, it's much better. And then cyans is what you see in the windows. You can make them more bright, you can make them darker, however you want to do it. I want to make it more dark, and actually I can go more cyan, and you can see I have two colors that are quite different, and the moment I go here they turn more blue and they kind of play better with the sky, in my opinion. So I want to keep them, and I can actually make them more red and blend it more with the building, which is cool, or I can make them more stand out, which is now more turquoise. So I want to keep it somewhere in the center. Another color that I can definitely retouch here is yellow. You can see I can make it more visible and I can make it more blue or more red. And I think more red would be better in this case. Alright, this I don't want to touch. And this is more, even more red, which I want to keep clean. Alright, we're good here. So you can see it's quite a difference before and after. Now, I definitely want to fix some shadows here. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to create a 50% gray, fill in, and go to overlay. We spoke about that in the last video where 50% gray is not visible when set to overlay. And I'm going to use dodge and burn. All right, so a couple of things I want to make more visible are wheels and lower part of the building. Just because the upper part is actually brighter than the lower part. So I definitely want to make it a little bit more visible. And then this building on the left, so I'm gonna brush out here, specifically this shadow. And the last thing is maybe this inner shadow can get a bit brighter here in the building. All right, so we're much better than this. I think we're pretty much done just for this image. I think the road is really bright. There are a couple of ways to fix it. I can go to my dodge and burn layer, select burn tool, and actually increase, make this part darker. You can see the difference, quite big. Another thing I can do is create a new layer, and I can just go into black color, maybe make a gradient like that, and then set it to soft light. You can see it also makes it more, it makes it pop a little bit more, but I think I also hit a truck a little bit, especially the wheels that I was trying to save for a while. So I'm gonna take a soft brush and erase this part. All right, so, okay, the arrow is a little bit more visible. You can see the manhole here. I think it looks good. Maybe decrease opacity. That's the one thing I love about Photoshop, is that no matter what you do, so for example, I went to levels and then I created whatever, a level thing, and then I hit OK. And a moment later, I look at the picture and it's like, holy shit, I don't really like it. Instead of going back into levels and trying to control it again, all I can do is just fix my opacity. So I can make this levels layer, adjustment layer, be 40% visible, or 10% visible, or 90% visible, just simply by clicking the digits or the numbers on my keyboard. And if I don't like something here, for example, I think I increased this part too much, I can just increase or decrease opacity just by clicking on my keyboard, which is really easy. Okay, so the cool thing is that I can click Save on my Photoshop, and what it will do, since I opened file straight from Lightroom, it will actually create me a new file here, a new thumbnail in my whatever doc that you can see here with a complete image, and I can just click Shift, Command, E to export it, and just export it as a JPEG. I actually, myself, I wonder how far off I was from my original picture that I retouched a month ago. All right, let's take a look at it. All right, it's quite different. I don't think it's possible to repeat the result the same, but I think the main difference is the color temperature and saturation. the image that I retouched a couple of months ago has way more, it's more desaturated. It has actually less color. And then this picture has a little bit more color. And the one thing that I noticed what was really good here is I cropped the left part of the picture before, where here I get to see the stupid car parked here on the left, but I can easily fix it by just doing something like this. All right. Okay, I guess we're done here, and I'm going to be recording next video in a month. Thank you. Bye.